Live from KSAT 12, the Nightbeat starts right now.
Bringing comfort and care to the people of Uvalde, the new addition to the community that aims to help families heal. Plus,
it also keeps our story of San Antonio as a historic city, and especially my neighborhood, the West Side, has its own history.
A new future for a piece of San Antonio's past. The reimagined look for Alesan Courts and why this is not a done deal just yet.
Myself, someone who has experience, I can see all of the work and effort and craftsmanship that's gone into every one of the pieces here. It's really impressive.
50 years of history now up for sale. How these costumes and this shop are woven into San Antonio's history. But first,
tonight, another organization from San Antonio is helping the people of Uvalde heal.
Yeah, the Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas is adding a permanent facility in Uvalde. The Night Team's Lee Waldman spoke with the organization's executive director about how they hope to help.
This is our sanitary therapy room. We'll have a version of this in Uvalde as well.
The rooms of the Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas are as different as the children cared for inside of them.
In this room, we have the seasons. This again ties into our theme of there are seasons of life and nobody knows how long they're going to be.
Dr. Marian Sokol is the executive director. Within the first 24 hours of the Robb tragedy, she and her team were in Uvalde.
Open a drop-in center for comfort and consults, as we called it, with child therapists, that we leave the door open. But within the first few weeks, we had 4 families say to us, we don't feel safe here unless the door is locked.
They've adapted, learned what works here, what the community needs.
I guess that saying about it does take a village, it certainly is going to take a village coming together for a long time to help Uvalde.
Sokol says they're committed to being there, which is why they're constructing this permanent facility right next to St. Philip's Episcopal Church in downtown Uvalde.
There are some amazing plans when you give something to an architect and it's a big box that they can draw up, and that's what happened.
This rendering shows how the outside will look. Plans are still being finalized on the inside. Sokol hopes families in all stages of grief will see this as a place to start healing when they're ready.
In Uvalde, it may be longer, and it may take longer to start. But grief doesn't have a timetable, and neither do we.
The Uvalde facility is currently under construction. It was being used as a thrift store by the church before they gave it over to the Children's Bereavement Center. Dr. Sokol tells me it should be up and running by 2023 with 6 full-time staffers. Live at the Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas, Lee Waldman, KSAT 12 News.
Lee, thank you. And now we're learning more about the woman who was killed during a drive-by shooting that investigators say wasn't aimed at her. She was 25-year-old Novita Brazil. That's according to the Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office. That shooting happening at a home on Bald Mountain Drive near Marbach Road in 1604. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office says that more than 100 rounds were fired into that home. Brazil died from a gunshot wound to the head. Now, deputies believe the suspects in this case are as young as 14 to 15 years old.
they have their own police department, but Bexar County Sheriff's deputies will be providing 24/7 coverage to the city of Gray Forest. BCSO officials made the announcement today. The moves come at the request of city officials in Gray Forest. BCSO will assume all patrol responsibilities for an unspecified time period, along with their public safety and communications center dispatches for emergency and non-emergency calls. Gray Forest residents should experience no interruption in service, according to BCSO. By the way, we're still waiting to hear back from Gray Forest city officials as why this request was made and what's going on with their own police force.
From 4 design options down to 1, a master plan for the redevelopment of the Alesan Courts is weeks away from being finalized. Today, community members looked at a narrowed down design and gave feedback. The Night Team's John Paul Barajas explains that it's really a fine line between new and improved and historic preservation.
That at least part of it will have the flavor of what it was like originally.
Just to revamp it would be like a good, really good idea for this block and neighborhood. Saving history and starting new. So design company Able City has had to juggle with trying to meet community demands. Going from 4 design options in August to a mix of those put into one.
People really wanted to maintain the street presence of the building, the existing buildings. Residents really wanted, bigger playgrounds and community gathering spaces in the courtyards.
Seema Kairam, an associate with Able City, explains current designs will leave the 2-story buildings along the street. For some of the buildings not along the street, they plan to shift them to create more room for green spaces, as well as make some of those buildings 3 stories to increase housing.
We were at 575 units, which was, increased from 501. But we'll probably, land closer to about 550.
These are estimates for now, since they are still taking community feedback. The designs also plan on making most units at least 25% bigger, but Kairam adds a studio apartment that's currently around 250 square feet will go up to around 500.
If they need the extra space, I can live with that idea. They're moving them further in and keeping the outside appearance pretty much what it used to look like.
Able City plans on having a few more community meetings in the coming weeks and hopes to have a master plan by Thanksgiving. They add when they do break ground, they will work in phases so nobody is displaced. Steve, Stefania.
Thank you, John Paul. Of course, we'll continue to follow it. Well, more than $1.5 million worth of cocaine now in the possession of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. Border Patrol officials say it was taken from 4 different incidents, all from the Laredo port of entry. 3 consecutive days in a row they made seizures. They happened from September 30th to October 2nd. The drugs found in different vehicles, a hatchback car, 2 sedans, the cab of a semi. All 4 drivers were arrested. They range in age from 22 to 48 years of age. It's an 8-year sentence for a San Antonio man convicted of sending sexually explicit messages to an undercover police officer posing as a teenager. 56-year-old Ruben Garcia admitted and pled guilty to a charge of online solicitation of a minor with intent to meet for sexual contact. The Bexar County District Attorney's Office says Garcia was sending messages to whom he believed was a 16-year-old girl named Becky online. As a result of his sentencing, he must register as a sex offender for 10 years.
Now for a look at your headlines in your Nightbeat News Flash. The Bexar County Sheriff's Office is closing its criminal investigation into the 22 deaths from last year's winter storm. The February 2021 storm caused days of rolling and sustained power outages, you remember, because of issues with the Texas power grid. In total, 246 people died statewide. Well, now, the Bexar County Sheriff's Office says that investigators determined that none of those deaths were caused by the outages, at least not the ones in San Antonio. Now, on a separate note, 6 wrongful death lawsuits filed in San Antonio against CPS Energy and ERCOT, which operates the power grid, are still pending. A dramatic shift in day 4 of the sentencing trial for Michelle Barrios Vela. Her former Precinct 2 Captain Mark D. Garcia is now going to testify against her. Garcia was indicted alongside Barrios Vela and charged with perjury and official oppression. And him turning state's witness could be the prosecution's attempt to get her to serve jail time. Now, she faces between 2 years probation and 10 years in prison after a jury convicted her of felony tampering with records last month. The sentencing part of the trial is going to resume tomorrow at 8:30. The Texas National Guard is reporting yet another death of a soldier working Operation Lone Star near the Texas-Mexico border. Official documents show the soldier died by a self-inflicted gunshot wound while on duty this morning in Eagle Pass. As of right now, officials are withholding the soldier's name until the family is identified or notified, 10 Texas Guard members linked to Operation Lone Star have died since its rapid expansion began in September of 2021, and of those, half have been by suicide. And that's a look at your Nightbeat News Flash.
Let's talk about voting now. Time ticking away to register to vote for the November election as the deadline comes next Tuesday. And with this being Hispanic Heritage Month, many organizations turning their focus on registering more first-time Latino voters. Today, our cameras stopped by the many voter registration booths at UTSA. A demography professor at the university says historically, gerrymandering and voter ID laws have prevented some Latinos from even wanting to vote. But as UTSA senior Jessica Venegas explains, it's the only real way that she sees to bring about real change.
we always believe that, oh, it's not going to matter. Even if I go out to vote, it's not going to change anything. But that's the mentality that always puts us back where we started.
Voto Latino, a Washington, D.C. based voter advocacy group, says only 52% of eligible Latinos in Texas are registered to vote. Again, the last day to register is October 11th. That's next Tuesday. For a link to do just that, you can head to KSAT.com.
Coming up, Neighbors United, the events bringing communities and law enforcement together across San Antonio.
And it's the end of an era for one longtime business. We're looking back at Starline Costumes' place in San Antonio's history as it prepares to close its doors.
Now, 1 week ago, it was the calm before the storm, and now Florida's southwest coast is trying to recover from the destruction of Hurricane Ian. So next up, we're going to discuss how Texas is stepping up to help. It's next on the Nightbeat.
Days after it hit, and the death toll continues to rise nearly a week after Hurricane Ian. At least 108 people have died in Florida and North Carolina. But it's not clear how many people are still missing. Tonight, the hard-hit southwestern coast of Florida trying to move forward. Thousands relying on the kindness of strangers. Basic essentials being donated, with so many people now homeless. The American Red Cross setting up this shelter, now housing more than 1,000 people. There's been more than 2,300 rescues. The state of Texas continues to send help, including shelter coordinators, first responders, and veterinarians.
We're fully stocked and ready for Halloween and Ren Fair. Ren Fair's big.
Okay, so one last Halloween season and one last Christmas season, and then one of San Antonio's top costume shops is gone forever. Over the weekend, Starline Costumes announced that it's closing.
It will be missed as well. The Night Team's Patty Santos tells us why the family-owned store is closing and how it made one of San Antonio's most famous mascots.
My mother started the business in 1972.
That's when Starline Costumes on Bandera Road was born.
Well, my mom was a dance teacher, so we had dance costumes all over the house. So then she decided to go into the costume world.
Julie Keck and her mom had a talent for making unique handmade play costumes, character costumes, and everything they could imagine.
We make professional mascots.
Some of San Antonio's most famous mascots were born here.
The Puffy Taco, the Jalapeno, UIW, the Roadrunner, many universities here, and also a lot of schools.
Their most beloved, the Spurs Coyote, imagined here over 40 years ago.
When the original Coyote, Tim Dirk, came in, and my mom would sit there and they would draw things up.
The number of costumes made, sold, and rented by the company are almost countless.
How many costumes do we have? I don't know.
But after 50 years, the curtain on this stage of the business is taking a final bow.
It's just time for me to retire, time for me to move on.
Time to thread some quality time in for family.
When you hit 66 years old, it's time. It's time.
Everything in the store is for sale and must go. Keck will hold on to the mascot production side of the store for now.
It's still hard to let precious things go that have been in our department forever.
With Halloween being around the corner, she says this is her busiest time of the year. So if you're looking for a costume, they're all for sale. And if you're looking for a job, you could give her a hand. Patty Santos, KSAT 12 News.
The store owner says she originally wanted to sell the store to a new owner, but after 3 years, the timing was just never right.
Wow. Coming together and preventing crime. Both are at the heart of what's now being called San Antonio Neighbors Together. Now, those events used to fall under National Night Out, and we stopped by several gatherings tonight around town, including those at Harlandale ISD, the Ella Austin Community Center, and the Alesan Apache Courts. San Antonio Police created San Antonio Neighbors Together 2 years ago to help officers connect with local neighborhoods.
By the way, back to Starline Costumes. I once rented an Austin Powers costume from there. Just
awesome.
I think maybe I should go back and just buy it because, you know, you never know when you need an Austin Powers costume.
How about the teeth? Did you have the teeth to match?
I think I did. Yeah, I bought, but I didn't
awesome.
buy. I got them there. I got them like through that company that does Billy Bob teeth.
Oh, yeah.
You ever seen those? Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's where.
And as a Clark Theater alumni, I was able to get a few costumes from there too.
They helped the Cougar thespians.
They did. Go
Okay,
Cougs.
there you go.
All right, let's go ahead and take a look out with the satellite across Texas. You can see that there are some showers on the west side of Texas. But unfortunately, that is where they are going to stay. We are not going to see any rain from that. And even the tropics right now are fairly quiet. You know, Tropical Depression 12 developed just to the west of the Cape Verde Islands, and that may strengthen briefly into a tropical storm, but the winds are against it, and it's probably going to fall apart. There is an area of disorganized storms just to the east of the Lesser Antilles. This has about an 80% chance of development in the Caribbean Sea over the next 5 days, but most indications are right now that it's going to fall apart across either Central America or the Yucatan Peninsula. We'll be keeping an eye on that for you, but don't expect any kind of rain from that across parts of Texas. Instead, we're keeping the status quo. The high temperature today was 86. Tomorrow will be a couple of degrees warmer, but we're going to continue with the mostly sunny skies, dry conditions, and cool mornings out there. The morning low this morning was 66 degrees. Tomorrow morning, I think we're going to be a couple of degrees cooler than that because we've actually got clear skies out there right now. Generally, all of us saw high temperature in the mid to upper 80s. It was 89 in New Braunfels, 85 in Uvalde, 86 in Del Rio, 81 in Rock Springs, 90 in Cotulla, and 89 in Pleasanton. All right, but no rain for us. And I want you to look at this graphic. I showed you it earlier during the 6th, but in case you haven't seen it, know that this month, October, is going to be the potentially 11th month in a row of dry weather. What you're looking at here is the last time that we had rainfall that was above the monthly average was all the way back in October of 2021. Every month since then has either been below average or at average, and this is how drought develops, and that's why we are seeing major drought conditions across South Central Texas and the San Antonio area. And when we look at rainfall over the next 7 days, I mean, it's all going to be across West Texas or the desert Southwest. There's nothing in San Antonio over the next 7 days for us, unfortunately. 73 degrees out there right now. We've got mostly clear skies, low humidity. That is a recipe to see temperatures cool down. Early tomorrow morning will be near 60 degrees, 50s in the hill country. It'll be close to 60 in the early morning hours, but by about noon we'll be warming up to 80, and in the afternoon just a couple of degrees warmer. High temperature near 90, not only in San Antonio but across the San Antonio metro area. It'll be 91 in New Braunfels, 90 Rio Medina, upper 80s in the hill country, 91 in Floresville, and 90 in Pleasanton. Looking ahead to the forecast, again, cool mornings and comfortable afternoons. Mornings will be a little bit warmer after tomorrow morning, but still, again, we're keeping the status quo.
All right. Thank you, Sarah.
All right. We want to know, when will the DAC attack be back?
Well, let's not rush it, as you said earlier, because of Cooper Rush. But if you listen to Jerry Jones today, his first game back will not be this Sunday. At least that's the way it sounds. When we come back, you'll get to hear it too. And when it comes to their game against Alabama and their feud, Jimbo Fisher won't take the bait. Coming up.
Pro football coverage, powered by Davis Law Firm.
It doesn't appear that Dak Prescott will be returning as a Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback when they travel to Los Angeles to take on the Rams this week. At this time, it will be Cooper Rush's fourth straight start this season, where so far he's been 3-0, 4-0 in a starts dating back to last year, which is a first in Cowboys history. Dak's condition updated today during Jerry Jones' weekly appearance on his radio show in Dallas, where he was asked if Dak can grip the ball following surgery on his thumb.
No, not well enough to play.
Just get into the weekly routine. I think it's as simple as that. I mean, he'll get there. When he gets there, and so, not worried.
All right, while the Cowboys are not worried about when Dak Prescott will return, the Houston Texans should be worried about the performance of their quarterback, Davis Mills, who has yet to lead them to a victory this season. Head coach Lovie Smith was asked point blank today if there have been any discussions about making a change at quarterback.
We're not making a change at the quarterback position. The things we've talked about is with Davis leading us, and whatever Davis and everyone, coaches, what we all need to do better. Did I just tell you we're in the fourth quarter with, who our quarterback was that led us in position to take the lead there at the end? Davis Mills. He's our quarterback.
All right, we'll see what happens when the Texans face the Jaguars in Jacksonville Sunday at noon, where the Texans are 7.5-point underdogs. When the Texas Longhorns meet the Oklahoma Sooners in the Red River rivalry this Saturday, the Horns will be 6.5-point favorites. That's because Texas is coming off the trouncing of West Virginia 38-20, and Oklahoma was roughed up by TCU 55-24. That leaves both teams coming into this game 3-2 overall, but Texas is 1-1 in the Big 12, OU is 0-2. And hard to believe it's Kansas and Kansas State leading the way with 5-0 and 4-1 records overall. With just one Texas OU game under his belt, what was Steve Sarkisian's take going into his second?
What an awesome environment for college football. You know, I've been fortunate to have been in a lot of great games and a lot of rivalry games, and never had the neutral site setting. And this was from the moment you start pulling into the state fair on your buses and you see both sides. That's what it's about. You know, I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it.
And you can see Texas taking on you live right here on KSAT 12. The kickoff happens in the Cotton Bowl this Saturday at 11 a.m. There's also no question that victory over number 1 ranked Alabama this Saturday in Tuscaloosa would get the Fighting Texas Aggie season back on track. That's after their unexpected upset loss to Appalachian State 17-14 and their narrow escape of Arkansas 23-21, and then most recently blown out by Mississippi State in Starksville 42-24. For that reason, the Aggies are 23.5-point underdogs Saturday. Combine that with the fact that new starting quarterback Max Johnson is trying to recover from an injury to his throwing hand that occurred during the loss to the Bulldogs.
We'll go day to day. Banged his hand. We'll evaluate him as he goes day to day. And then obviously Haynes would be the guy. Yeah, right now Haynes, and we'll get Haynes and Connor ready to play if there's something there. But if not, we'll have to wait and see if Max can. That's day to day. So we'll have to judge. He'll get as much reps as he can too.
All right. And when it comes to his feud with Alabama head coach Nick Saban, after Saban accused the Aggies of buying their entire recruiting class, Fisher's response was, "We've moved on." Kickoff Saturday night set for 7 p.m. High school volleyball district showdowns. Next. Playoff position is up for grabs tonight. District 29 6A, 8-2 Harlan taking on 8-2 Warren at Northside Sports Gym. Hawks up 2-0. In control of the third, Isabel De La Rosa to Thalia Yancey for the drive down the line. Harlan goes up 12-10. Warren answers back. Sofia Rodriguez splits the blockers to the point. Warriors come back to tie it up at 12, but Harlan pulls away. Anaya Joseph with a thunderous spike. Hawks complete a sweep with the Warriors, 3-0. District 27 5A, Burbank taking on Lanier at Alamo Convocation Center. Folks trying to rally from an early 7-1 deficit. Alexis Mendez finds Rosalind Guerra, who smokes a shot down the line. That cuts the deficit down to 4, 12-8. But the Bulldogs pull away. Miranda Garza to Olivia De La Cruz for the cross-court kill. She finishes the night with a team-high 13 kills. The Bulldogs go on to win 3-1. Last stop of the night at Lanier Alumni Center, YWLA taking on Kennedy District 28 4A on homecoming night. Rockets down big in the second set, but they're hanging in. They're tough. Kaylin Magallanes hits one that rolls off the net and down. That's part of a 3-0 run. The Lady Cardinals take control from there. Raquel Morales, the quick set for Isabella Villanueva for a huge spike. YWLA sweeps Kennedy 3-0. More highlights tonight on the BGC page at KSAT.com. And congratulations to Aaron Judge. The Yankee slugger has now passed Roger Maris' American League home run single season record by hitting his 62nd home run tonight. Happened in the game 2 of a doubleheader against the Texas Rangers in the first inning. There are only 3 others who have more in a season, including Barry Bonds, who hit 73. But Roger Maris Jr. says the real home run king should be Judge, since the other 3 occurred during baseball's steroid era. Still a lot of debate about those records that happened back then.
But it is generating a lot of interest in baseball.
Sure is, and that's what they like.
Yeah. Thanks, Greg.
And we'll be right back after this. All right, so we're coming back with late breaking news as we finish the show. We want to show you this, an active crash scene on North 1604 near Bandera Road. You can see there's only 1 lane of traffic there flowing, but you have 3 other lanes that are basically shut down. Now, we don't have many details right now as to what happened, but of course, we're going to continue to follow this developing story as you have. It seems like there was some sort of accident right there. You're seeing at least 2 fire trucks.
Yeah, and it looks like a vehicle on its side that you see right there behind the fire truck as rescue officials are there. Again, this is not far from Helotes, 1604 down to just 1 lane. We're going to continue to monitor the situation. Of course, have the very latest on GMSA.
Which starts at 4:30. Have a great night.